Alright, so I promised I'd be recording. I wanted to jump directly. This video, everything is an addiction. You see it? Everything is an addiction. So, uh, whatever it is I was thinking about, man, my biggest addiction right now is the vision that I'm trying to kind of like construct in a more clear way. And is it really a vision for myself? I don't really think so. But I really think that that's where like the dilemma comes, right? Because like the vision for myself versus the vision for the world, the universe. Uh, so, so I'm considering it an addiction because every single thing I do kind of translates back to it. And I was looking at it one time and I was like, we kind of like do a whole lot of shit, but like it's innate in us, right? Like creating these patterns is the natural way our mind works. It's within our direct nature. I think that's basically how the human being was constructed in order to be able to evolve the way it did. As a species, we were able to kind of like move forward specifically because every single step we do, we kind of like formulate a certain addiction to it. And when we explore new things, the people that get addicted to those things kind of move forward. And again, I can go back historically and kind of like the people who basically started working on their arts and crafts. At one point, it would have been a joke. Like, all we needed were farmers. But then the people who work on the arts and crafts developed from the people that kind of like were building the houses, right? Were the people that were designing the houses. And like every single thing was, this is what I want to do. And most of the time, if you don't do what you want to do, you're not really feeling good, right? It's the same as, it's very much an addictive approach to life. The personality that you have is very much going to like yearn for whatever your mind is kind of like saying it wants, it wants, it wants. So it is a mental thing where you kind of like want to get into that pattern and then the behavior kind of follows through. But saying everything is an addiction kind of puts us in a predicament because what we're doing is we're engaging with life as if we're addicts. And it's funny, it's like I was reading once about Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm not being presumptuous. I never was like an alcoholic, but I was reading about them once, and the first step is to admit that you are one, right? But the last step is to help somebody and to basically work with somebody who is also that way. It creates a certain loop. Addiction on its own is no, it creates a certain, it closes the pattern. So it allows you to come out of yourself and to input in others. Right? It's like it creates a life cycle for you to kind of understand what you went through and for you to be able to, I think step number 12 or step number 15, I don't know what it was. But you get out of yourself, you kind of like admit that you're going through something. And then slowly, you go through the steps until you finally get to a point where you're like, helping others will create this sustainable pattern that's like instead of being addicted to something, you're kind of like transferring it to a more positive thing, to kind of like drinking water, having conversations, reading, writing, spending time on woodwork, right? Instead of just like aimlessly doing something else or just sitting watching TV. Like, people that watch TV every fucking day, it's an addiction. People that maybe YouTube every day, it's a fucking addiction, right? Like for me, it's like I didn't YouTube today. I should have YouTubed because, and everything kind of forms its own purpose in life. Everything forms its own, like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Where is it going? I've met people that really just have to sit in front of a computer and just like code work or do all kinds of stuff. I wish I had a couple of people like that, man. It was super fun. Super fucking fun. I want this house to be that way, right? I want this house to be like a combination of just people engaging with like the one thing that we're trying to work on. And that's basically what I want to do. But anyways, that's my addiction, right? My addiction is kind of like finding the patterns that are needed in order for the overall kind of like vision to fall into place. But is addiction really like, from an evolutionary perspective, do we have to look at it as a negative thing? And if the first step out of it is to kind of admit that you're in it, does that not really give you more control over the patterns of your life? Admitting something is kind of like, anytime you admit something, there's a note in the new book. We're almost there, man. I'm almost done with the old book, by the way. I'm almost done with it. I have like 10 papers left. Today I got excited and I got myself a new book. It's empty. So this could be an addiction of mine, right? Writing notes. It's funny. It's like admitting it kind of releases some tension, because at points in life I was like, when I was doing my boot camp last month, it was a time where I didn't write enough notes, and I'd feel bad by the end of the day. It's as if I didn't do anything. And admitting that this kind of like is an addiction of some sort allows me to be more in control, I guess, how to think about it or how to connect the dots or the thoughts that I would want to write. I have no idea. But there is some form of like, it's the same as admitting you need help, it's the same as forgiving yourself. These actions or these kind of like acceptances, right? Like, when you forgive yourself, what you're doing is you're accepting that you did wrong and you didn't know any better. So admitting that, or forgiving yourself, is kind of admitting that, and that kind of like releases the tension from that train of thought. And if you look at everything as kind of like, again, like it could be a weekly addiction, it could be a monthly addiction, it could be a yearly addiction, everything. But for us to see more out of it, we kind of have to like accept our role in it. And the best way to do that is to kind of like accept its existence or admit to its existence through us or within us. Because we see things a certain kind of way. Every single person sees things uniquely. And most of the time we forget that. Most of the time we just kind of like, he's looking at this door, I'm looking at this door. Oh, it's a door, we share something in common or we agree to it. But the reality is like different angles of the door, different usages of the door. Like, my favorite thing is like, there's a supermarket where people are kind of like, where there are two women. One is kind of like, two women are buying pans. One is taking the same pan and like flipping it because she wants to do rice with it or something. Well, the other one is taking the pan is going like this because she wants to beat somebody with it. So it's the same pan, different utility, because everyone sees things differently, right? That's the fun part. So with everything around us, we kind of like see them differently, but we kind of have to admit that they exist, or at the very least that our patterns towards them are kind of like repetitive or more kind of driven a certain kind of way, or no longer under my kind of, how do I explain this? Because at first you're intentionally thinking and involving yourself in something, and then your mind picks up that that's something that needs to be done or you are interested in, and it develops patterns around it, and then eventually basically starts giving you the feedback positive loop around those patterns. And then as you do more things regarding it, it gives you different positive loops or the positive feedback. So you're no longer thinking, it becomes a thing that you do, which is what I'm trying to articulate as a form of addiction right now. Because accepting that it's a thing that you do allows you to detach yourself from how you normally see it, and would allow you to kind of engage with it in a way that brings the new found intention from the experience of being a part of it for so long. And it allows you to engage with it in a more, I want to say wholesome. The reason I want to say wholesome is because the whole of you comes back instead of just like what you're used to. The whole of you approaches it instead of just how you're engaging with things, period. Overall, what we get out of admitting that everything is an addiction is the honest, objective approach to the subjective behavior we had towards something. Okay, overall objective approach to the subjective behavior we have towards something. And hello, guys. It's a video. Thank you, and have a good day.